the general sentiment from Missouri fans, and I could be wrong, is a disappointment in this season. I do think that there's a general disappointment about this season because there was a chance going to the college football playoff was pretty firmly on the table for this team. I think up until the Texas A&M game. After that happened, I think we all kind of started to doubt it a little bit. But the expectation heading into this season was a college football playoff bid team, an at-large bid team, and it just didn't pan out that way. But then you have to step back and think about you're disappointed about a 3-loss season. That is a far cry of where we were excited. And Maggie, I think in the first year of this podcast, we were excited that they made a bowl game. Right, we were excited that they were going to the Gasparilla Bowl.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into Mizzou, That's Who, your podcast for Missouri Athletics here on KC Sports Network. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Maggie Johnson. National Signing Day in the books, the regular season in the books. We're going to recap both of those things on today's episode. Maggie, how you doing?
Good. Time kind of flies when you're having fun. I mean, I know we had a couple of weird things happen this football season, but I can't believe that it's almost Christmas and we're talking about the end of the season because it feels like we were just previewing the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and also Luther Burden declares for the NFL draft at the time we've last recorded an episode. That one wasn't shocking, right? I think we all kind of assumed that was going to happen. But it was still, we could start there too as we start with Luther and we'll kind of go into the recruiting class, right? Because we'll wrap up National Signing Day and then talk about kind of end of season, some bold projections we're seeing getting floated out there and everything like that. As 'tis the season for bold projections and everything going on. College football playoff is going to impact that, obviously, where they can go with championship weekend. But Luther Burden does declare that he is going to the NFL draft for the 2025 season. As I mentioned, not a shock, but it was still one of those things, Maggie. I don't know how you felt, but for me, when I saw the announcement, I was still like, 3 years gone by already. I was a little bummed out. That whole day I spent like watching like every video that Missouri is putting out about Luther Burden highlights and stuff like that, thinking, wow, like, where has the time gone? As you mentioned, it's one of those things where I was still a little bummed out that he was declaring for the draft, even though I knew he wasn't going to. Like, I knew he wasn't going to come back for another year. Like, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Still bummed out he won't be on the team next year.
I think a lot of it has to do with so many of us have been watching him since he was, 15 years old. So it's almost like a family member. You're letting go of a family member. But also, we've had some players get drafted early, a lot more lately, and then, like the J-Max of the world.
Right.
But we're not like a 3 and out type of, pumping them into the NFL draft after 3 years. We're not used to it. So I think it hits us a little bit harder than maybe it would hit like a Kentucky basketball after a first year or Alabama and Georgia in football. So I think it's going to take Mizzou fans a little while to realize that we're bringing in that type of talent that might not stay around. If they're going to go anywhere, go to the draft. That's where we want you to go. At least we're not hearing transfer portal news from Luther Burden.
It would have been worse, right? If Luther was like, I'm going to stay in college, but I'm also going to enter the transfer portal. I think that would have been worse.
Oh, my God. I think the Mizzou would melt down. There would be, I think Twitter would shut down with just Mizzou fans freaking out.
I give Luther Burden a lot of props for what he did and the decision he made. Obviously, changed the trajectory of the program. You see Missouri having another top 20 signing class, right? Like him deciding to come to Missouri clearly changed the trajectory of the program. And I thought it was telling for Eli Drinkwitz when he said he changed my career as well. Like Eli talking about him, he trusted me, changed my career and his ability. You don't think about it from that side of things in the regard. I thought that was very interesting from Eli. When he talked about it there, which they've really embraced this new side of the recruiting. I give Luther a lot of credit for not transferring. He very well could have, in today's day and age of college football, he could have said, you know what, I'm going to hit the transfer portal. Look, let's just be frank. The quarterback play at the University of Missouri has not been at the level of some other universities have had, right? In a level that maybe a wide receiver like Luther Burden would want. right? We saw wide receiver Luther's freshman year hit the transfer portal because he maybe didn't get the quiet type of quarterback play that he wanted.
And he was still a top
And he was still a very good receiver
in the SEC. And I don't even really want to say that it's benefited him as an individual. I don't think Dom Levitt's benefited that much as an individual. He had a great game, I think, against Georgia Tech. At least had 2 touchdowns from what I saw. But I don't think that he's had a breakout season at Georgia that's really catapulted him into the type of NFL player that he wants to be.
For sure. And so like there's a lot of situations where I think nobody would have been well, I hesitate to say upset. Nobody would have knocked Luther Burden, I think, for transferring, right? For the talent that he had. People obviously would have been upset with him transferring, but you would I think eventually understand, like, like high level talent, he wants to go play with a high level quarterback, but he didn't. And I give Luther Burden a whole lot of credit for that, for staying with it. And even the last paragraph of his statement that he put out, right? His last paragraph was all about, I'm still a Mizzou guy. Mizzou is a part of me. Like, it's still about Mizzou. Like, I still love Mizzou. Was great to see in a time where you were a little bummed out as Mizzou fans. I'm sure when you see Luther Burden declaring for the draft, you're like, oh man. But I still see he still has a love for the university. And the clip of him choosing Missouri was going around, obviously, when he after he declared, and even a little bit before that, because I think the anniversary of him choosing it was a couple of days before he declared for the draft, or maybe even a little bit before the Arkansas game. It was going around, but overall, I mean, I think the University of Missouri is just indebted to what Luther Burden has done for the program. Like, I think what he's done for the program is almost immeasurable in terms of, I'm going to use a word what the kids use, the aura now around the University of Missouri is a lot higher because Luther Burden was there.
I think if Luther Burden would have transferred, he would have felt like he went back on a lot of things that he said. Like, a lot of things that he said were about St. Louis and about community and about family. And I think if he would have betrayed that and decided, you know what, I'm just going to go to Alabama, I think not all kids should feel this way because you should do what's best for you, but I think he would have felt like a moral dilemma. And here's the thing about Luther Burden is a team. He's a team guy. No matter what you see him doing on the sidelines, post wins, or, he's a little bit cocky. We see it, call 3. But like, he is a team first guy. When Theo scores a touchdown, when Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll score touchdowns, like, he's in there celebrating with them. It's never just been all about Luther. Okay. And I don't think that was at any point going to change in his time at Missouri. I will also say, this is why this recruiting class, Luther Burden, this is why you don't fire coaches after 2 years of not being successful at a program like Missouri. It's a process. And yes, you're not always going to get success for keeping coaches long. Like, you have Sam Pittman, who I don't think has been that successful at Arkansas, and they're still giving him a chance. But you can't take a new coach in the best conference in the land. I mean, we'll talk about recruiting rankings later, but a top 20 class and like ranked around 10th, I think, in the SEC, and go win immediately. It's a slow burn. And now you have these players, because when Luther Burden decided to come to Missouri, he came to Missouri with an idea. Like, Drinkwitz pitched him an idea of what Missouri could possibly be. Now these players that are coming, thanks to Luther, see the picture. Yeah. They know what they're getting, and they know that they can be part of that process. We're indebted to Luther Burden.
100%. I think that's the best way to put it. Again, I want to go back to what Drink said about, like, look, this season might not have gone the way that you and I anticipated for Luther Burden, the way that Luther Burden maybe anticipated to go to Luther Burden, right? I think there's some disappointment there with that, right? I think that might be a feeling that some people are feeling as well, as this year didn't go as well as we had anticipated for Luther Burden. To sort of see him go out on, look, he caught that 2-point conversion touchdown. That was great. That play that they ran, saw it the whole way, or it was one of those where it's like, oh my gosh, he's going to be there. He caught a pass that they needed to have in that Arkansas game as well to keep that game alive, to win that game. I know some people were speculating of like some video clips of like seeing Luther walk off the field and everything, that something's going on, something's up. People just like to do that though, but yes. to finally see the vision. Like Missouri's lost like what 5 games in the last 2 years? Is that right?
Yep.
5 games in the last 2 years. That's incredible. Like just to stop.
We were
that,
losing 5 games at least
season.
per season. At least. Typically 6 or 7.
And I think a lot of people's attitude towards Eli Drinkwitz, and this can kind of go into the recruiting side of things too, because I think that's kind of where he's gained his, let's call it a popular vote, right? That's where he's gained his popularity is in the recruiting side of things. Another top 20 class, 19th overall, according to 24/7. The composite rankings at 24/7 have it 19th as well. They are able to get some big flips. Javon Hilson, a guy who is a very highly touted D end who was committed to, I believe, Florida State ahead of time, decommitted, had guys from Alabama, from Georgia, from Texas A&M, Texas getting after him, and he picks Missouri on a pretty public forum to pick. Yeah, I believe he was on ESPN. I think maybe is he
maybe 2.
ESPN 2, yes, when they were doing their signing day special. He committed to the University of Missouri in front of presumably a lot of people on ESPN 2. So seeing him pull out that Missouri Tigers hat, put it on, again, just like the Luther Burden thing, very big deal. Again, another year, Missouri has another top 20 class, top 25 class, where you feel pretty darn good about how Eli Drinkwitz is kind of guiding the program. You mentioned the consistency in college football. That's a big thing. You need consistency in college football, and that's why you don't fire coaches. I think giving coaches a 2 years. You're seeing some of these coach firings in the group of 5 level specifically. Like 2 years you've been there and you're already getting fired. Like, why? What does that do for anybody? I think you need like a minimum of at least 4. Like 3 is probably like the bare minimum to get your actual guys in there to play for you. But like you need like 4. You need to get guys out of that. Like it's a college is so different than the pro level. I think that you got to have some consistency if you want to build a program like Missouri has. They weathered a couple bad seasons, right, with Eli Drinkwitz. Right? He was like 500 before last year, right, in terms of like his overall record. And look what happened when he weathered a little bit of a storm, which 500 as a storm is kind of.
Well, you've got to get your players. You've got to get the commitments first. So he comes in, players are leaving. There's a bunch of weird turnover or whatever. Then you get your players in. And then you have to let them grow and develop, because whoever's in Luther Burden's class, like they still have to grow and develop. They're not coming in as freshmen and changing the world. And then they become those juniors and those seniors. And then it's about getting those players that follow. It's about getting, like you said, the Javion Hilsons, the Williams Wanieris. It's about getting those players that follow because they've seen the development. Like I don't care when you read the comments, people are saying, why would they go to Missouri? I don't understand it. These guys understand it because they're watching it. Guys like Matt Dollars watched Brady Cook go from a 3-star Chaminade, probably not going to play that much quarterback into, in 2023, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Mm-hmm. These players are smarter than fans are, okay? They're watching these things. They're paying attention. They're seeing the development, especially positions like running back with Coach Looper.
True.
We're getting dogs in a running back because they're watching guys like Cody Schrader and Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel thrive in the position. The wide receivers coach,
Jacob
Peeler, one of the best in the country. And look at the guys that they're bringing in. We brought in Olugbode. Is that how you say it?
Olugbode. Yes, Olugbode.
Olugbode. From IMG. Like, we're bringing in studs at those positions, and it's because of the positions coaches that Drink has behind them.
Another layer to this too. You mentioned Hilson. You mentioned Marquise Davis as well. He was a guy that flipped to 4-star, like Kentucky's highest recruit, I think, in their class, flipped to Missouri, which is always fun when that happens. You've got, again, Brennan Haygood, another running back that was committed to Boise State, flipped his commitment to the University of Missouri. Those guys were all on campus last weekend for the first time.
They saw the snow game and they're like, let's go, let's ride.
And I think that this is, and I said this on the Verbal Commitment podcast, if you want more of a breakdown of like the actual class and like the players, Ryan and Kevin do a really great job. They allowed me to get on their podcast and talk about this class a little bit too. So you can go check that out. It's in the same feed here. Those guys do a great job with just recruiting in the KC area as well. So A lot of Casey guys also on the Missouri offensive line. When you start to look around and like, oh, you're going to have a lot of Casey kids playing for the Missouri Tigers coming up in the future, especially with Jack Lange going up there as well. But you talk about this is a testament to Eli Drinkwitz to get those guys on campus the final game of the season right before signing day and is able to flip 3 of them, like all 3 of those guys. He came on campus. He was able to pitch them the vision. He was able to show them the vision as well. Not only just pitch a vision, but to show that to them. I'm sure seeing sweet renderings of a new stadium, of a new north end zone, it also helps. I'm sure having all the photo ops also helps with all those guys and everything like that, different uniform combinations. But I think it's a testament to Eli Drinkwitz. What he's done is be able to flip these recruits. And that's what we anticipate from Eli Drinkwitz, right? When you see a class that Missouri had a 5-star offensive lineman, Lamont Rogers, in, and then they lose him to a flip to Texas A&M, and their class doesn't move, right? And then their class actually goes up because he's able to flip more guys to make up for it in the composite as well. But I think it's super impressive to see this from Drinkwitz, to have these guys on campus and to get commitments to the staff. Like, I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was, Demarion Folks, actually, who flipped from Pitt, who was a wide receiver, who was committed to Pitt, went to the game. He committed to the staff the next day because after he was there, he's like, yeah, actually, I want to come here. And so he committed to the staff then. That speaks volumes to me when it comes to the recruiting of this game.
I 100% agree. It's crazy because a game like that, where I was there from start to finish. I got there for the senior festivities. I was out there tailgating at 9 a.m., which is, please always leave early if you know it's going to snow. I didn't sit in any traffic, so it was great for me. I know it took one of my friends 5 hours from Kansas City to Columbia. But you have these guys come into this environment that they've never experienced. Most of them are from Texas, I guess the Pitt guy probably he probably experienced it, Ohio as well. But you have these guys coming in, and you're like, you have your players out there shirtless, just like, pumping it up. You see the fans out there that are rain or shine or snow out there supporting you, and you want to be a part of it. And Drink's smart enough. He's going to use that weather to his advantage. He's going to use the fan base in that situation to his advantage. The biggest one for me, and we've talked about him, is Marquise Davis, because yes, he's committed to another SEC team, but there's a little bit of, I don't want to say the word inconsistency because they're consistently pretty bad. Kentucky
Consistently right, yeah.
right now. And yeah, you have guys like Luther, like we already said, or I'm sorry, not Luther, Looper, like we already said, selling a dream to them as well. So I don't know. I'm very excited about this class. It's a smaller class. There's still a few pieces that I think that we need to pick up, but I'm really excited about it. I think we're 13th by average. Like, I think we were 19th overall because they take into account the numbers in there, but I think we're 13th by average, which is kind of insane to be sitting at, in 2024, 5 years after Drink got here, and be sitting in this position. And a lot of it has to do with Matt Zollers. A lot of it has to do with the recruiting of Matt Zollers as well.
And this is the first time I don't want to put a year on it, I guess. In a couple years, I'll say, that Missouri has had a class headlined by a quarterback. Zollers is the highest ranked recruit by 24/7 on that Missouri has in this class. If you go to the composite, it's Hilson, because he's ranked higher on a lot of the other sites. I believe both of those guys are 5 stars on other sites as well. Maggie and I had a conversation about just the recruiting sites in general is funny because there's so many of them. You can just use whichever one fits your narrative, right?
Typically it's on 3. Typically on 3 likes.
They really do. Yeah, on 3 typically they do give out a lot of more 5 stars. I feel like on 3 does than any of the other ones. But if you just look, having a class headlined by a quarterback hasn't happened in the last few years, and to have a guy like that who is so vocal, who committed so early and is so vocal about being a Missouri Tiger, I do think helped a lot with the recruiting of this class and keeping this class together. Like we mentioned, Lamar Rogers, I think we anticipated that flip to happen after they lost to Texas A&M. Yeah, I mean, like that, like when that game happened, you're like, oh, he's not coming to Missouri. I think that was a kind of a big sentiment after that, and Jamari Monroe never really felt like he was going to stay at Missouri too, and the fact that Missouri was in on so many other different running backs, everything like that. But
you can't fault them. This is what I was thinking about. You can't fault them for staying in their home state and playing, because that's exactly what we're preaching to every player from Kansas City and every player from St. Louis. We're like, come play for your home state school and be that future, be those players that people remember. So whenever I heard that Lamont Rogers was flipping like a month ago, I was like, I mean, good for him. If he wants to play in front of his family and friends, who can fault him for it?
no, I like that. I completely agree. 100% agree. I think can't be mad at it at all. I'm scrolling through the last few classes that Missouri has had. 2023 they were 32nd overall. 2024 obviously they were a top 20 class. But trying to find the last time, like the last quarterback that they got, I'm almost.
It would be Sam Horn.
It probably would be.
If he's
same year as
pretty high, but if he was he Luther Burton's class?
I thought so. I'm looking. It does not look like. Maybe he was the year after.
It's so they all kind of blur together.
They do blur together. That class was 15th, by the way.
Oh yeah, wait, Luther Burton freshman.
Barry Johnson, who I do think will be a good quarterback. He's at Oregon State now. It was did he have him at Sam Horn in the same class as Luther?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I must.
Because 2022 is that first year.
That's right.
The first year with them. So, but yeah, so you have Luther Burton that headlines it, and he's the star and the celebrity of it all. And then Sam Horn was great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he was a top out of whatever school in Georgia he went to.
It's Travis Hunter's high school quarterback.
Yeah, Gwinnett, I think is what it is called. The high school he went to. So, I mean, great class still, but Luther Burton's the star of it. So you're right. Matt Zoller's guy that's broke his leg, got injured. I think his leg, looked like it was broken, but it could have just been sprained. I don't know. But I think that kind of would lead us into priorities in the portal as well, and like players that we need to get, because obviously, no matter what people think, Matt Zollers is not going to come in and be a freshman starter at the University of Missouri. He's just not.
He won't, and there's a gap here that's going to be there. Gabe Diarma, in front of the podcast, had a report out there. If you haven't seen it already, that Missouri is checking in on Miller Moss. That he is making them their number one target in the transfer portal. I do think that there will probably be a transfer quarterback starting for this team next year. I don't know about Sam Horn, Maggie. I'm losing a little bit of optimism with them. Look, I mean, he can spin it. He can spin it. He can throw it well, but the last time we saw him was those 2 games against FCS teams.
It was Louisiana Tech, I believe, or in Middle Tennessee, or
I guess they're 2 FBS teams. But yeah, like the 2 small schools where he played the second half and didn't necessarily stand out against Brady Cook, and like that's the last that we have of him. And like he tore his UCL, had Tommy John surgery playing baseball, and it's one of those things where we didn't get to see him at all this year. So
we have to bring in an experienced quarterback. That's just the way that it is. You can't put all of your eggs into the Sam Horn basket and hope it works out, because then you have a situation where we were in, similar to this year, where we were like, we'll be fine. We needed a backup quarterback. And luckily we got a backup quarterback, because obviously that happened, but you can't afford to do that with the quarterback that's not played in SEC games. There are 3 very interesting, actually there's 4 very interesting quarterbacks in the portal as of right now. Connor Wegeman, who obviously carved up Mizzou when in his game at Texas A&M, but now Marcel Reed has been kind of the proven starter for them, so enters the portal. Jackson Arnold, obviously the 5-star out of the state of Texas, who played at the University of Oklahoma. I don't think anybody here is a stranger to that information. I don't know how I feel about that because he could not hold on to the ball the entire game against
He's
Missouri.
probably going to Mississippi State though too, because that's where
Go play for Jeff Levy. It makes the most sense. That's who recruited him. That's where you should go. I do like Miller Moss, and this is my reason I like him. How many quarterbacks have played under Lincoln Riley and won Heisman's? 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I like the possibility of bringing in like that type of raw talent, because I think that Lincoln Riley, his issues and his Swiss cheese defenses, it's really not typically the offenses. That one intrigues me the most. Please don't bring Thomas Castellanos here. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. I get that he carved us up, but I want to utilize our wide receivers.
Yeah.
Why have all these great wide receivers if we want to bring in a running quarterback? That doesn't make sense to me. So right now, like we talked about, Miller Moss is the most intriguing to me.
Every team is going to have 4 quarterbacks on their roster, right? That's just in college football. You're going to have 4 quarterbacks. So if you think about let's say a healthy Sam Horn, Aiden Glover, I think sometimes gets glossed over. Overlooked is probably the right word. In terms of it, he came in. I do think that he's got some talent there. Drew Pine apparently has 2 more years of eligibility. I did not know that was possible, but he does. And then now you're talking about Zollers, right? So Zollers, you could probably give him a red shirt. So then you're looking at really 3 quarterbacks. I think they have Tommy Locke as like a walk on, and I think they have another walk on, or Harold Blood was their other one, right?
Yeah, and he's gone. Yeah.
And he's gone, and he doesn't have any eligibility. So you're really looking at you needing to add at least 1 more. It's not weird in today's college football either to have 5 quarterbacks on your roster either. So you're at least looking in the portal to add 1 guy, a guy that can be a starter is kind of what you're looking at here. I think it's for me. It's Miller. Like it has to be. Like that has to be the objective. I think that you go get him, you feel pretty good about it. I do think there's some USC people. Look, on the KCSN channel, we have a soccer podcast, No Other Pod, that covers Sporting Kansas City. Jimmy Mack is a USC guy, graduated from USC, very big fan of the Trojans. He thinks that Miller Moss was a scapegoat last year. He thinks that Miller Moss was treated unfairly by Lincoln Riley and how they wanted to do everything over there at USC. So I think that I don't think if you see, look, he's benched last year for this guy. That quarterback wasn't very good, by the way, who they benched him for. He made some really poor mistakes, some very young mistakes. But I do think Miller Moss is a guy that could run this offense pretty well, and has those Brady Cook-esque type play style, right? That could fit into what this offense is kind of looking for from a quarterback while you wait for Zollers, who is like Brady Cook-esque style guy, to come in and develop. And look, he needs to put some more weight on. He's a little scrawny, obviously. And he's 18-year-old kid coming in playing against some 22-year-olds, maybe 26-year-olds. Who knows how the COVID year is working out for some of these guys. But I do think that the transfer portal quarterback is going to be a big one. Linebacker too is going to be a one that they're going to have to address.
And honestly, probably safety as well. I think lose Travis Johnson, Charleston, Sidney Williams. We lose all of them, so I think it wouldn't hurt to bring in.
Well, he has a year. I think he still has a year that he could. Dalen Cornell, I think, has.
He still has eligibility left.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't think we've heard whether or not. I would assume that he's staying. I don't think.
I saw his dad. His dad was tweeting about like, "Hey, we're Shrine Senior Bowl. Where our invites at?" But like,
I did see that.
Although you're not a senior, so you can't.
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of how it works. But no, I think that he'll probably stick around. We don't lose any cornerbacks, but we should probably bring some in. I would say that would probably be smart to bring in 1 or 2 just to make it a little bit deeper, because it was a little weak all season.
Yeah.
And that probably had a little bit to do with depth. So yeah, I think that those are big positions. Obviously, we need to replace 2 offensive linemen. Running back, I'm not super concerned about, because we I think Jamal Robertson's
Lacey looked good.
and Lacey looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And then you bring in this guy who could potentially be a third string, that third guy type of running back situation in Marquise Davis. So I'm not really that worried about that. It's, the quarterback sitch.
Yeah, look, they still have a lot of they still got some good wide receivers. I'm excited for Joshua.
Great wide receivers,
like
honestly.
Joshua Manning, like the amount of like the mass he put on, the good weight that he put on, and he looked good. Like there were some times, I mean, Maggie, you and I talked about, like sometimes over the middle he'd catch a ball, and I was like, I thought that was Luther Burden, like the way that he was moving, and like I'm excited for him to come out there and finally show what he's got. They got plenty of weapons. It's going to be quarterback. That's going to be the big one. I'm trying to see on their class if they brought in any corners. They brought in a 3-star, but they didn't bring
Mark Manfred is a corner.
Okay.
So we brought him in, but I think that's the only corner that we brought in the class.
That is the only corner. They brought in 2 linebackers as well. I think they're going to need to be again this year. They're going to need to be defensive portal hunting. Might be the year for it. I don't know. We'll have to see who all enters the portal and everything like that. We'll have bowl announcements coming out. I believe that's this Sunday. This upcoming Sunday should be. We should know. We'll take a break though, kind of recap the season and kind of give our thoughts on how the season went. And talk about where Missouri goes now, where they could be heading for their bowl season. But first, got to talk about our friends at Home Field Apparel. I'm rocking the Fighting Tiger shirt. This has become one of my favorite ones to wear. This one and the Mighty Mizzou one. The Mighty Mizzou one is very good with the Orange Bowl or Citrus Bowl, right?
No, it's Orange Bowl.
Orange Bowl.
Okay. Yeah.
1961, I believe, something like that. In that ballpark. Great. Which one are you rocking today, Matt?
I've got this classic Mizzou with the jumping tiger.
I like the leaping tiger.
I know. I like this one too. I'd wanted it. It was from like 2 collections ago, and I'd wanted it, and I finally pulled the trigger on it. So.
Is that their like heavyweight shirt? They have like another material you can buy their shirts in now. They have like a heavyweight or.
Well, I don't know if this is a heavyweight material, but this one feels different than the one that you're wearing. They're both great. They're both incredibly soft. But this one feels a little bit heavier than that one.
Yeah, I've noticed that the other day when I was on the site that they have like different types of shirts that you can get the designs in now, which I think is cool. There's one that's like more designed for like oversized fit type looks. That's a trend. That's what the kids are wearing. They're wearing the oversized.
The cool kids are wearing the cropped oversized.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. You could be like a cool kid and go over to homefieldapparel.com, use code Mizzou24 for 50% off your first order. We obviously appreciate the support. They got hats, they got hoodies, they got crew necks, they got all kinds of stuff that you can rock there. I believe they still have maybe even a quarter zip over there. They did drop some new quarter zips, Mizzou not included in that collection because they already have a quarter zip. That is out there. And I believe it's the old school M with the tiger on it, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think is it the leaping tiger? There is a tiger on it.
There's a tiger on it, and I think there's an M on it. You know what I think? If the folks at Home Field are listening to this one, I think they need to add more paw print M stuff.
I know. The paw print is one of my favorites.
Paw print M. I saw a lot of the guys wearing the paw print M hand warmers during the Arkansas game. I like that logo a lot. I think Drinkwitz even had like a vest. I can't remember if it was this year or the year before that had the paw print M on it. Kirby Moore was wearing that vest. One of those guys was wearing one of those vests. I was like, wow. I got to get my hands on that because the Paul Pernim, I think, is one of my favorite marks that they have. But go check them out, homefieldapparel.com. They got all kinds of stuff that not just for with the holiday season coming up. You can get those fans in your life that like more than just the Missouri Tigers. You can get them something too. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about where Missouri goes next after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
All right, Maggie, let's wrap this season up. Crazy to think about, as you mentioned already. Crazy to think about we're already at this point. Missouri does get the win over Arkansas in a snow game. Conditions not great. I was going to try to make it from Kansas City. I wasn't going to leave in time. That was what it came down to. I wasn't going to be able to make it, so I didn't make the trip with the weather kind of piling up. It was worse in Columbia than it was in Kansas City. Kansas City, we still did get some snow, but didn't get near the amount of snow they had in Columbia. So I had to stay back and watch that game from the warmth of my couch. But overall thoughts on that game and just kind of how the season's gone.
The game was interesting game. I think that we got out offense, I guess you could say, all over the field kind of by Arkansas. But we talked about this last week with Ty Richardson. If this game was close, Brady wasn't losing this game.
Right.
He wasn't losing this game. I think I remember however much time we had, like around 2 minutes, and we got the ball back down because Arkansas just scored. And I remember thinking, well, now it's time. Brady's got to go earn his rock. And I thought to myself, there's no way. I wasn't even that nervous because there was no way that Brady Cook was leaving that field
Yeah.
as a loser, because that's not who he's been. The past 2 years he's been a winner. So yeah, I really didn't have a lot of doubt. I had a little bit of doubt on the defense in the last drive, just after what we saw in the South Carolina game. But yeah, those guys deserved it. That was the wildest weather I've ever experienced there, and I did experience the rain game against Nebraska in like 2008. So I've experienced some wild weather there. That was the wildest. My toes are finally defrosted, which is good. But no, I'm really proud of them. They, the perseverance of coming back to win that game when Brady was a little off in his passes, and there were some defense wasn't great, but
Yeah.
you found a way to conditions not great, but they found a way to win the game, and that's what they've been doing the past 2 years, is finding ways to win the close games. So yep, I'm proud of them. Got their rock, and I loved everything Drink said about Luther and Brady in this press conference as well.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot with KC Chiefs, and I'm not comparing the Chiefs and the Mizzou by any stretches.
Right.
Yeah, they're the same programs. We talk about this a lot with the Chiefs of they just find ways to win. Like, right? Like, it looks like Missouri shouldn't really be in the game against South Carolina. They found a way to be in that game. Now, necessarily didn't win that game, but they found a way to be in it at the end to take the lead at the end. They found ways to win against Auburn this year, and Florida last year, Arkansas this
Vanderbilt,
Vandy. Like, if you look about how this team, I think that the general sentiment from Missouri fans, and I could be wrong, is a disappointment in this season. I do think that there's a general disappointment about this season because there was a chance going to the college football playoff was pretty firmly on the table for this team. I think up until the Texas A&M game. After that happened, I think we all kind of started to doubt it a little bit. But the expectation heading into this season was a college football playoff bid team, an at-large bid team, and it just didn't pan out that way. But then you have to step back and think about you're disappointed about a 3-loss season. That is a far cry of where we were excited. And Maggie, I think in the first year of this podcast, we were excited that they made a bowl game. Right, we were excited that they were going to the Gasparilla Bowl.
Well, I remember sitting at, I don't remember if we were 2-5 or something like that, but I remember sitting here on this podcast with you and Gabe and saying, okay, if they can find a way to make it to the bowl game, I will go. Like, I promise I will go. And flights were canceled and I couldn't go. But here's kind of the interesting thing that I think was what makes it a little bit harder on Mizzou fans, is that a lot of teams gradually get better. And Mizzou went from that 2022 to that 2023. And so a lot of, like, especially people on like the outside are like, whoa, what's going on? But if you watch the 2022 season and all those close games that we probably should have won, most of them we probably should have won, you understand it has been a little bit gradual, but the records just don't reflect that. So I think fans are struggling with going from up or down and up and down. But is it down? Is it really down? You have a potential to get a 10-win season with a bowl win. And I've heard, as of right now, don't have a lot of opt-outs for that game. And because of where Missouri sits in the SEC rankings, might have the opportunity to play a team that's a little bit more middle of the pack for another conference because of those other teams that are ranked a little bit higher and lost, so they got out of the CFP. So don't get me wrong, like, I know you should want to succeed, but you should see this as success and see it as a catapult, as opposed to a valley in the peaks and valleys that it's kind of appeared to be. it's not a valley. I can promise you it's not a valley.
100%. And I think I think the perspective is it's okay to be disappointed about this season. I think that's very okay. And I think that is a good thing that you're disappointed about a 9-3 year. Like if you just think about the perspective of it, but I think you also in the same breath should step away and think about, oh wow, okay, we were 9-3 this year and I was upset about it. Like,
and I mean, look at Texas A&M. Look at Texas A&M can't for the life of them not be 8-4. And look at all of the talent that they have. Yeah. And they didn't play Georgia or Alabama this year. They didn't play Georgia or Alabama, so they can't say anything about scheduling or Mizzou's schedule is easier than them. They can't for the life of them get over that hump. And we are kind of over that hump, and we just need to continue it on with these top 20 recruiting classes. Drink keeps playing on a platter for us. There's so much to look forward to that I get this hurts, but you've just got to keep pushing on.
I know a lot of people have compared like these 2 years, the 2022, 2020, or 23, 24 to 07, 08, right? And the kind of the parallels that you've had with those 2 years. I mean, look, they still won the Alamo Bowl in 2008. Like they still were played in the Big 12 championship game. I know a lot of people get bummed about that year, but it wasn't particularly close. But I think that there's some good things to take from this season as you look at some of the bowl projections here too. A lot of it's Music City, seeing a lot of Music City Bowl. And as you mentioned, I don't think there'll be a lot of opt-outs. I know damn sure Brady Cook's not opting out. Like
no.
that.
Yeah.
Look, let's be realistic.
He'll play as many games as he can in a Missouri Tigers jersey.
Correct. And I don't know how many more opportunities he has to play football, right? Like he could. I don't think I'll gladly wear egg on my face if he ends up being like Brock Purdy, right? He goes in there and is a really good NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's going to find a spot on an NFL team. That's not to say that he can't play in like the UFL, right? Maybe the Battlehawks. I know they cut AJ McCarron, and people are pretty upset about that. Maybe they're just making room for Brady Cook. Who knows? But I think that like Missouri's going to have a lot of guys playing in this game. Obviously, Luther Burden's not playing in this game, as he shouldn't play in this game. But a lot of Music City Bowl, like CBS, Action Network, 24/7, Athlon Sports has him there. College Football Network, some kind of. Yeah, six of the major. Oh, the Athletic as well also has them in the Music City Bowl. Lots of Iowas. That's obviously an SEC Big Ten one. I've seen some Iowas, seen some Nebraska. That would be a wild one if they played Nebraska. And Michigan. Michigan, I think, would be a really fun one as Missouri fans if you are able to play a Michigan team that A, doesn't have an offense, and B, would probably have a lot of opt-outs because Michigan's probably not too stoked about playing in the Reliant Quest Music City Bowl.
Wait, is that the same? I think Reliant Quest is its own bowl.
I threw out a sponsor. I think they have their own, but yeah.
The cool thing though about the Music City Bowl is obviously it's drivable.
I'll be there. I promise I will be there if they play in the Music City Bowl.
So I think that helps a lot. And then like you reading off teams that are, I mean, how many wins does Iowa have? 7? I'm not positive. You're reading off teams that have 6, 7 wins. They're not anything great against a Missouri who was a 9-win team. I mean, I think they would still be close games, but you can get so much more fan support if you're at that Music City Bowl. And I know a lot of people are pushing for Vegas. Like Vegas is cool. Stadium's cool. I understand. You're going to get fewer fans there. You just are. Same with Florida. So I don't hate the idea of the Music City Bowl. If you put me in that Liberty Bowl, though, I will not be happy about the Liberty Bowl. You would no, but I'm okay with Music City. I think the 3 I've seen the most are Vegas, Music City, and Reliant Quest.
Yep.
Because Citrus Bowl is kind of locked in with, I think the first team out of that playoff. It'll probably be Ole Miss or South Carolina. And then that's locked in with Illinois because even though Missouri's ranked higher than Illinois, they're the first team out of the CFP for the Big Ten.
Yes.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, they've jumbled it all up. And I think there's, I I would be curious to see what the big team is. It's Trans Perfect, by the way. I would have never, if you would have given me 10 guesses, I would have never got to Trans Perfect Music City Bowl.
I feel like it's been a few things, so.
It had, yes, it has. Iowa's an 8-4 team right now. Michigan is 7-5. Nebraska 6-6. I mean, first bowl game in years for Nebraska.
2015 or 16, I believe.
I would be shocked if it was Nebraska. I think it's probably Iowa because I'm sure Michigan will do something to be like, well, we're Michigan, so we get to jump Iowa and then we get to pick whatever we want type of deal.
Which would be a makeup. If it was Iowa Mizzou, it'd be a makeup of the COVID Bowl because that was Mizzou and Iowa in the Music City Bowl.
Yeah, it was Mizzou. Wow. Small world, full circle, I guess, with it. But yes, Music City's probably the only one that I would go to, looking at it because like I'm not going to Florida. I'm not going to the Gator Bowl. I'm not going to Las Vegas. That's not a good trip. Yeah, Las Vegas Bowl for ESPN, the ReliaQuest Bowl against Iowa. So you're seeing a lot of common opponents. A lot of Big Ten bowls is what it looks like. Las Vegas Bowl, though, they have them against Colorado, USC. I would like to play a team that haven't played.
You don't get to play often. I agree with that. The hard thing about Vegas is just I think it's either the 27th or New Year's Eve. I've looked at so many of them and I can't remember. But flying out to Vegas around that time,
not great.
It's not great. It's busy and expensive, so that's not ideal. My one issue with bowls, and we had this issue back when the BCS picked Kansas to play in the Orange Bowl over Missouri, is you just have people picking bowls, and a lot of it's based on matchups they want to see or location, proximity. It would be crazy for them at this point not to put Missouri in the Music City Bowl because that's where they're going to draw the most fans. And I think any of those Big Ten teams, they're not all that far from Nashville, so it wouldn't be that hard for them to get there as well.
Right. That makes the most sense. I know remember we had that whole fiasco with whole Brett McMurphy about the Missouri and Kansas. Missouri was dodging the deal, but it was like Liberty wanted, what was it? Liberty wanted, what school? Arkansas. That's right. The Liberty Bowl wanted Arkansas rather than Missouri because
it's so closer. And
yeah.
We have lots of Arkansas fans in Memphis as well. Little Rock isn't that far, so it made sense. Like regardless if it's true, I don't know if it's true that they had a first pick, second pick. I don't know. I just go based off what the director of the Liberty Bowl said, and he said he wanted Arkansas.
Looks like some previous sponsor names if you want to replay this game with Music City Bowl.
I kind of do.
It was just a Music City Bowl in 98, 2000, 2001. I don't know what happened in 1999. It was the homepoint.com Music City Bowl. That's what happened in 1999. And then from 02 to 09, it was the Gaylord Hotels Music City Bowl presented by Bridgestone in 03 to 07. It was two sponsors for the bowl game. Interesting. And then in 2010 to 2019, it was the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl.
Well, you wonder what kind of gifts they're going to get for playing in those games. That's the thing. It's like I have absolutely no clue. It sounds like a logistics company, but I don't know. These players playing in these games, like this is such a cool experience for them. That's why I love the fewest opt-outs as possible, not just because it makes your team better, but it's just such a cool experience for them to go there and like be celebrities and get gifts and do all that fun stuff during the holiday season. Like I love bowl season for the players specifically.
Can I read you the Wikipedia entry on TransPerfect so we can try to figure out what TransPerfect is together? Because I'm still not 100% sure and I've read it twice. TransPerfect is a New York City-based translation and language services company. The company services clients in many fields such as film, gaming, law, and healthcare. As of 2012, TransPerfect is the, quote, largest privately owned language service provider with offices in over 100 cities worldwide, end quote, and more than 7,500 employees.
So now I don't know if you hire them out or if they provide. What's that?
Oh, they do subtitling.
Oh, interesting. So the Music City Bowl is definitely going to have required subtitles on the game.
Actually, yeah, they probably will. Never heard of this company. but I hope they do good things, and I hope they give good gifts.
Hire them for your next
Yes.
idle job. You
What in the world? They've had some pretty bad sponsors. Bridgestone's not a bad one. Bridgestone's
a good
actually,
one.
yeah, Bridgestone's actually based. Well, no, that's
Well, Bridgestone Arena is down the street from
correct.
Titan Stadium, so
Yes, it is. Good arena, by the way. Bridgestone Arena. But the hockey
it is
team-
nice.
Yeah,
I've been to concerts. I think just concerts, actually.
yeah.
A few good ones, though.
In 2023, it was Auburn, Maryland. So I think whoever Missouri gets will be better than Auburn, Maryland. And Maryland whooped them. Holy cow. How did Auburn get into a bowl game last year? They were bad.
That was 2023?
Yeah, 6-7. I guess they did make it to a bowl game.
I don't know why it felt like
I thought 3-5 in conference. Maybe that's what kind of skewed my thought on them. They
I think I thought Tennessee played in the Music City Bowl last year, but maybe not.
beat Mercer or what to make it there. Yeah, so I do think it's going to be, if it's in Nashville, I will be there. I'll make that promise. If it's, because the way it worked out with the schedule, I think it's like, what, it's the Monday after Christmas, I believe, is when that game is.
Okay.
And it just worked, the way it works out a lot better with my schedule than the other ones do, because the Chiefs play on Christmas, right? And so then they have like 12 days off before they play the Broncos again, which is insane. It's also insane they're playing an NFL game on a Wednesday. But
I think the NFL just kind of does what it wants some days. So like
Mhm.
Friday game,
they do.
Saturday, we're going back Sunday, Wednesday. It's kind of obnoxious, but
They do.
the NFL,
They run the world. They run the world. All right, I think it's going to do it for this week's edition of Mizzou. So we'll be back next week with another episode. We'll figure out what we'll talk about. I'm sure there's something come up that we can talk about with this team. But
maybe more sponsorships. Maybe
we'll just go down the list of like who sponsors the Fenway Bowl this year. It was Wasabi last year. I don't know who it was this year. Like what is Wasabi? Not the actual food. Nope, it's a crypto company. I don't think Wasabi's a crypto company, but it sounds like it would be.
Yeah,
we could play a game: bowl sponsor or crypto company. Bowl game or crypto company. That's the next episode coming out for us. But we appreciate you guys listening all the way to the end. Always like and subscribe. Hey, go check out if you want some more breakdown, in-depth information about the Mizzou's signing class. Verbal Commit did a really good job. Kevin and Ryan know their stuff when it comes to college recruiting. Go check them out on the Verbal Commitment podcast. Same channels you're listening to this on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. It's in the same feed. So go check that out. Appreciate y'all. For Maggie Johnson, I'm Tucker Franklin. We'll talk to you guys next week.